So, today we're going to talk about the psychology of seduction. But let me be perfectly clear from the start, this is not a how-to guide. Think of this as a look under the hood of human attraction and, maybe more importantly, think of it as a warning. We're about to explore principles that can build incredibly powerful connections, but in the wrong hands, they can be used to manipulate, to control, and to cause some very real harm. Let's get into it.
So what is that powerful pull we feel towards someone? Is it just some magical, unexplainable spark? Is it a manipulative trick somebody's playing? Or is it something more like a predictable science? Well, the truth is, it's a really complex mix of all three. And understanding that mix is absolutely essential if you want to protect yourself from getting hurt.
Now, before we dive deep, let's just quickly bust a huge myth we all grew up with. The idea that opposites attract. I mean, it sounds great in movies, right? But decades of social psychological research tell a completely different story. The truth is, we are overwhelmingly drawn to people who are similar to us. Similar values, similar backgrounds. Think about it. Similarity feels safe. It feels validating. Constantly being with your opposite just creates friction and anxiety.
In fact, just to put a final nail in that coffin, one classic study made 313 different comparisons of couples, looking for any evidence to support the opposites attract theory. The result? They found zero. None. So yeah, similarity is the real foundation.
Here's another myth for you, that women are the more romantic gender. The data just doesn't back that up. Studies consistently show that men often score higher on measures of romantic belief. And get this, they're more than 3 times as likely as women to be the first one to say, I love you. So the big takeaway here, forget the stereotypes. Human attraction is way more nuanced than that.
Okay, so with those myths out of the way, let's get to the core of this. The principles we're about to discuss are a double-edged sword. They can be used to build beautiful connections, or they can cause deep, lasting harm. And today, we're not just looking at the sword. We're looking at the blade. We're examining that all-important, razor-thin ethical line that separates genuine connection from outright manipulation.
All right, our first principle is actually inspired by a legendary con artist, a guy named Joseph Yellow Kid Weil. And his genius, if you can call it that, was his uncanny ability to tap into what people desperately wanted. See, his whole technique wasn't to invent a desire out of thin air. It was to find the desire that was already there. He'd learn what his targets were already dreaming of, wealth, happiness, a different life. And then he'd simply present himself as the key to that dream. In a romantic context, this means becoming the living, breathing solution to a fantasy your partner already has in their head. Now, the reason this is so terrifyingly effective is because of a psychological bias called motivated reasoning. We all do this. We want to believe stories that confirm what we hope is true. So a skilled manipulator exploits this. They craft a perfect narrative that you are desperate to believe. And you, in turn, start to rationalize away all the little red flags that pop up along the way.
And this is where it gets incredibly dangerous. The line between genuinely supporting someone's dream and manipulating them with false promises is razor thin. Fabricating a future that you have no intention of delivering isn't connection. It's a profound form of deception that will absolutely destroy trust.
Okay, the second principle, which also comes from that same con artist's playbook, is all about patience. It's about building desire and trust through a slow, methodical, gradual build. A slow build is so powerful because it works on 2 psychological levels. First, it seriously heightens anticipation. Our brain's reward system, the whole dopamine response, is often more fired up by the act of waiting for something than by actually getting it. And second, it builds trust through consistency. A series of small, easy yeses, a yes to coffee, a yes to a walk. It makes those bigger commitments down the line feel way more natural and less scary.
But here is the warning, and it is a big one. A slow build has to be mutual and respectful. Intentionally stringing someone along, giving them just enough hope to keep them on the hook when you have no real interest, that is not a strategy. Let's be perfectly clear, that's just cruelty.
All right, our third principle comes from the author Robert Greene, and it's all about making a really fundamental shift, a shift away from your own ego and towards true, genuine empathy.
What Greene advises is to take our natural self-love, our focus on ourselves, and redirect it outward. In other words, stop trying so damn hard to be interesting and instead focus all your energy on being interested. That's the critical shift from ego to empathy, and that is where real connection actually happens. And empathy is a skill. It's something you can practice. It means you're asking real questions, and then you're actively listening to the answers, not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's noticing their body language. It's validating what they feel by saying something like, "Wow, that sounds really tough," instead of just jumping in to try and fix all their problems. It's simply about being present with them. But, and this is a huge but, you have to be genuine. Fake empathy is so easy to spot. If you're just fake listening, or if you're using their vulnerability as a way to gain leverage or control, they will feel it. The goal has to be connection, not control. If it's not, it's just another form of manipulation. Our final principle, also from Greene, is easily the most delicate, and frankly, the most potentially dangerous one. It's what he calls the art of the bold move, a decisive, dramatic advance. Now, we're talking about that sudden, unexpected kiss or that big, heartfelt confession that's designed to break all the tension. But this immediately raises the most critical questions of all, right? How in the world do you know the moment is right? And more importantly, where is the line? And here is the most critical warning in this entire explainer. There is no gray area here. If you are making a bold move and you sense even the slightest bit of hesitation, the slightest discomfort, you stop immediately. Consent is not a suggestion. It is the hard, uncrossable line. A true bold move requires unmistakable mutual signals. Anything less than that isn't boldness. It's aggression. It's harassment. End of story. So, after exploring all of these powerful principles, where does that leave us? Let's try to draw that final ethical line as clearly as we possibly can. The difference, when you lay it out, is crystal clear. On one side, you have ethical persuasion. It builds trust. It respects the other person's agency, their freedom to choose, and it's fundamentally honest. But on the other side, you have harmful manipulation. It breaks trust, it ignores boundaries, and it relies on deception to work. One builds connection, the other just causes harm. At the end of the day, these principles we've talked about, they're just insights into human nature. They're observations about how people work. But they are not a replacement for the real foundations of any healthy relationship: earned trust, shared values, and genuine, honest-to-God care. True attraction isn't a con trick. It can't be faked. Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. After you peel away all the strategies, all the tactics, all the psychology, maybe the greatest, most powerful seduction of all is simply being brave enough to be completely and totally authentic.